to visit too. But that is second part of your tour, which soon comes next. First, I'll start here, the floor is yours. The little girl got some few lines from Lonely Planet. I'm sure you know them. They are talking of the place where are you now. Not today. Today marangu generally, but now in details, karibu. Underlined part, yes. Including razor, blah, 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 blah. From including razor, claustrophobic.
Yeah. The fabric is actually double.
Loud. Yeah. If you don't mind. Look like Bob Marley style.
Like use rather claustrophobic caves, actually dug out holes and tunnels that were used by the Chaga for hiding during the era of Maasai raids about 200 years ago.
Thank you. Wonderful, yes. And used from 17th century plus down to where we are. Now they are no longer used for that original purpose. We got them for culture tourism industry to serve as piece of artifacts, to give a clue to the world what happened to people of this big old mountain up here. Otherwise, we were told it's a misinformed word, whatever we got here, from the author who came earlier and started to do writings, which the really meaning should be chaka in Swahili, means forest or bushes, and so forth. So when these guys from highlands go to visit other territories, they were called the wachaga, people from bushes or whatever and so on. So guys who came earlier and do writings or represent what we have now, they're the ones who took us that side. These people up here, 17th century plus, they used to be monogamy, 95%. Only 5% roughly for them qualified to polygamy, with a special reason. If they are from royal family, they do anything more than a wife. Very rich families and so forth are all biological problems. If the married couples could not make babies, the polygamy will be branched there, etc. They were doing cultivating to be sustained up here because their land is forever green. It's permanently green area. It's humidified by montane climate influence and made cooler, etc. Or simply, Chaga land is part of Mount Kili ecosystem. It was harder to do beef farming here. If you keep lots of animals, graze them outside, they suffer rotten hoof disease and stuff like that. So if you go all around Kilimanjaro region, from 1,000 meters above sea level, this is just a bit above Moshi town. Moshi town, it's around 800 meters. So 1,000 meters and higher, everyone up there, they got 1 or 2 cows in the house. They don't keep herds and so forth because they have to feed them, clean them and so on. But cleaning these cows, the highlanders used to get the repairing material for their soil. Bananas from bush, they had lots of hard dark spots in them, which were seeds for them. So genetic modifiers or food scientists, they're the ones who change all those hard dark spots to the softish, whitish bananas we eat nowadays on the table. Arabians or Arabs were the first trying to deal with them, do anything or take them anywhere, end up calling them what they are now called. To get to the point, banana, you chop the A at the end, it sounds banan. In Arabic, it's the old version for fingers, banan. So British came to adapt the word from Arabian side and modify it with A at the end, and it sounds banana, blah, blah, that we have on the table nowadays. But that's where it came from, 7,000 years plus, southern-east of Asia, and so forth. Up here, it's the best food they prefer. In any style of cooking, the Chaga likes the bananas. If not, ripened ones, sweet fruits. If not the ripened bananas, the sweet ones for Chaga up here, it makes 50% of their holy drink. Yes, local brew, call it whatever. Yes, here they call it holy drink. They don't have any drink they believe or prefer or they trust than that thing. For marriages, for any occasion, ceremonies and so forth. That should be there. If it's not there, you are not with them, and you will never be with them. Up here they suffered animal products. They had 0 animal products. 1 or 2 cows in the house, you don't kill it 3-5 years, it's almost zero beef if you have to wait 5 years just for a steak, or cow skin for clothing, dairies and so on, because indigenous Chaga cows were so tiny, not like the latest cows we have now from laboratory development, like the tankers and stuff. No, for Chagas, very small cows. They produce very tiny milk, very creamy, but insufficient, like, simply. So Chaga used to buy the animal products from neighbor tribes. If you mention neighbor tribes for Chaga, they have to be located from 1,000 meters over sea level and lower. Chagas, 1,000 meters over sea level and higher to 1,800 meters. Here, where we are, it's 1,350. 1,350 meters over sea level. If you have altimeter or GPS or something, will help you to. It can go to 400, 1,400, but from 1,350 and there. If your tool works with the atmospheric pressure, it goes up and down. Unless it's satellite, it will be around 1,400. That's where we're standing. Buying the animal products from lower lenders, trading with them, zero money between, barter. Because lower lenders, from 1,000 meters and lower, it's a flat, dry, hot plains. Like in Moshi Town, if you came across, you felt it. Yeah? It's not like here, it's not cool, it's not this humidity and so on. So lower lenders, the best for them to be really successful, back on the dates we are talking about, 17th century plus or minus, was nomadic, pastoralism. Keep lots of animals and move after pasture, etc. And that such a huge resource make them polygamy, it's must, or it's practice. If you don't practice that, you are not that man. Of which we mean a man like, or a boy like anyone here. If you got like 500 cows, for them they call them little men because they can have only 5 wives around. But for those really with bulk, tons of cows, 10, 20 wives and so forth, the better you are on bed, the best. Not just the wealthy thing and stuff like that. So you find the crowds in the lower end, herds, and so forth, but they have zero grain products. They buy all the grains from Chaga, from Highlanders, and give them the animal products. So no money between them. Barter trade. In some point of time, they fall in clashes, very big fight, enough to kill each other. 1 or 2 times every generation, they went across that experience. This is when the sky turned or reached the exhausted part of it, or call it driest sky, whatever. 30 to 70 years, it used to happen 1 or 2 times. The sky goes a year, up to 3 years together, and no rain at all in some places, or very little rain in some places, which was insufficient for their lifestyle. From no rain, they can't have grass. No grass, no cows. No cows, depopulation. 5% of the population make them desperate. They go heartbroken, they go everywhere to kill, steal, does anything to survive. The Chagas become last option for them to live. So they go hunt Chagas in the highlands, which stay green permanently, humidity, monogamy people, very rich with grains. They harvest 3 times per year. They have lots of grains in the house. The guys in the lower land will come to shut them midnight rides, put them together, take everything from the house they want, and anyone from the house they wanted, they used to pick them away with. Earlier victims who were stolen on top of food stuff, cow, maize, beans, and so on. The boys, young ones, were stolen to be slaves. But when those Chaga boys were 18 years or older, they used to fight back. They rebel, they become rebels, they attack slave masters or kill them, or let them away, and so on. The lower landers learn it's not good stuff to steal the boys. They bear this behind their minds. Things turn around, good climate, back on track, they trade again with no money. 30, 70 years, good life. Eventually, drought strike again. The same thing happens nowadays, but from the modern way of living, we don't go back in clashes. We got computers, businesses, and things to do. Then it's not like what they used to do. If no rain, no grass, the cows will die. You have to go steal, kill people to live, and so on. Yeah, so the last heat went, dry enough again to die, they came up, and the caves were made from that last attack, which it's called the deformation warfare. deformation warfare, which means they came in, they caught the males, they used to stole them away. Now no more, deform them only. Don't kill them, don't take them away. Break them, deform them only, break the hands, legs, and yes, and even Sir Johnson, castrate them, stop them to extend the population and so forth. Keep them in the family areas. Then they become perfect psychological weapon in families. They hold down their families psychologically. They struggle with broken males, and they delay to arrange fightbacks. And the enemies pop in and wash away everything they intended. Maize, cows, beans, and so on. On top, anyone they intended, they took them away from the families. And last attack, the victims were female. The males were deformed, the girls were stolen. These girls has to be 15 years mean, max 25. For them, they used to have war technicians, call them bush doctors or bush physicians or whatever. If they caught you and stretch you on the ground properly, they got certain lines on your neck to see and tell you your age, and that will be that. So they make sure they don't take you below 15 years, girls, or over 25. So that kind of age were stolen off to the lower land and get abused. Every year a baby by force beside the giant males, not like anyone here or the gentleman here. Mostly tallest and massive for genetic engineering technique. So they create giant maculated babies by abusing the little girls with big males. Every year a baby. 5 years they terminate all the girls they stole. Yes, to get rid of information link. If you don't, when the kids are 5 years plus with their mothers, simply they're gonna learn it. Who are they, why, and so on. They're gonna keep it. 18 years old, tough slavery business, they are riding over a machine, they're gonna rebel. They can't select it to be working harder than a machine. They will go against the slave masters, and bloodshedding could be huge here than the earlier boys who were stolen here and rebel when they're 18. So for them to be safer, long-run techniques, they kill the girls in 5 years max, and they get the slaves, 3, 4 from each girl, unless the girl was very bad health, maybe one kid and she died herself and so forth. Yeah. So Chagas came to find this story lately, when they were struggling to go redeem the girls, pay back or something to get them back. The story was erupting that, oh, all of them, it's done, you'll never see them again. And so Chaga dig the caves by the order of the tribal ruler. If you want to know the technology of this kind of small war artifacts here from ancient time, the original story of this can stretch you a bit far, 2,000 years plus, when Jesus Christ was still in flesh. The Romans were strongest power of the earth during the Christ in flesh. They went into Turkish, trying to dominate, and does the same thing. So Turkish were the first in this planet to build the underground forts. But for Turkish, I'm talking of the huge thing, layers. Gorofa, magorofa caves in Turuki. Are you an historian? Lovely. Yeah,
Itakuwa ni sultani.
Whatever that you can call it, make it okay for you. Yeah, so Turkish built it against the Romans, and they survived it. So Chagas, they are young. Chaga is 400 years. Turkish is 2,000 years plus, and so forth. So Chagas developed that from those guys, but it was brought down here, marvelous, by Maasai, of which Maasai eventually become the enemies of Chaga. But Maasai is also ancestors of some Chagas. You know Machame. Have you ever heard anything Machame? Yeah. It's the place on the western side of the mountain. The Maasai stretch their history, pull it a bit back from where they are now, Tanzania or Kenya, all the way with Nile. They are Nilotic. It goes up to Northern Africa, Jordan, and even much deeper. So around Jordan, Maasai could pick these stories of the caves from Turkey and carry them along. No special schools to keep these materials on track. It's hand-to-hand combat lifestyle. Earlier generation teach the next generations what to do, survive this, goes up, you go down, and so forth. So Maasai carried it down to western side of Mount Kilimanjaro, and it made babies, the Machame, and they teach them the techniques. and the Machame is one of the Chaga dialects. Chaga is one big tribe dominate the mountain highlands with the 7 dialects. One of them is Machame. So Machame, they are the ones who learned this from Masai. Masai brought it from ages away down. And Chaga has to implement it against their own historical ancestors when things turn around enough. So caves were made, but Masai came with deformation warfare. Chagas could hide. These caves are light-proof and sound-proof made. To access from one room to another, where there is light in each room, you have to go through the tunnels, and the tunnels are twisted made. They are not straight, so light will never travel across the twisting line easily. It's blockage. And the sound-wise, when they talk inside, they get echo back. It hits on the twisting angle. It's not straight out and making noise for enemies to learn what they're doing there. Complication for enemies, they can't attack. Such a dark area they have never been before, and it's so silent and so on, unless they come with a piece of light, piece of wood, kijinga cha moto, piece of wood with a fire on it, a torch, to find a way in. Chagas got the terminators, or 3 ambushes. Traditional fighters will be hiding in one of the dark corners. They call it ambushing chamber. When the enemy is accessing, it's very easy these guys to see them and hit their skull with a single club. Special heavy hardwood which break the skull and the brain. Make a single cry from the victim and no more speech coordination in that body. The victim will lay down off like a rock in seconds. That is very easy then to stop the enemies to access in. Chaga themselves is traditional cave. They have traditional techniques in and out with no light. Light in the rooms only. They told us their traditional technique was butterfly style. Sticking their elbows, both hands, in the ribs, and fingertips reach the walls. They could go along the tunnels. Close to the ambushes, it's widened. You can't touch the walls. If you straight, it tells you stop. Stop and mention code words, secret words. The ambushers knows them, they will release you in and out. If it's the incorrect code word, no reply. They give you last chance to survive down there before they also access to your skull with a single hit and you lose your Wi-Fi network, you're done. I mean, midnight, you will be down to Indian Ocean seabed for crocodiles and fish to munch the remains, because they will butcher the remains and wash them off midnight to avoid traumatizing civilians here, kids, women, and stuff like that. Detection also, to avoid the detection from enemies, they do it midnight in piecing them, get them off. So the last chance to survive in the cave, it's the tricky questions about your family people live inside the cave. If you can answer it correctly, how would your grandmom got married to your grandpa? Do you know which river they go across to find local market? And so forth. If you know all these kind of location things, they will push you in and so on. Which was complicated for enemies. To go without light, they can't. If they go with light, they don't know the thing, the code words and so on. They skull quickly, it's off. Maasai realized they could attack the caves many times and no Maasai back. Dead or alive. Next day is no mass graves, no small grave to tell here is the remains of the guys who attacked the cave and killed. They were buried or dumped here and stuff like that. So after it was long enough and too many, the Maasai survivors went home and explained. You told us to go up there when there's no food, we die from starvation, and the stock of food in the house, we will take it for free. And cows and things and women and slaves, no more. And they are somewhere that way, so they were trained. It's traditional taboo when the boys are 15 to 18 years old. Even girls also, they do FGM for them. They did. For boys, circumcisions, and teach them the adulthood stuff. You become a real warrior now, you're a papa, fight for your chest, fight for your wife, kids, and so forth. If you go there, the guys will disappear with their food thing, and we need it. If you fall after them carelessly, you will never show back. So you have to figure out what to do and attack them and so on. What they did, the first attack, the Maasai's warrior, next generation, they figured the best. If Maasai earlier came to attack in the driest days, now they come in the wettest days. Heavy rain season, Maasai up, and the Chaga hide in the caves. And Maasai built hills across the surface to stop water flowing as usual and channel every drop into the tunnels and make sure it runs in, flood them to death. Day and night, 3 weeks, no Chaga out escaping, No more rain after the third week. It's a dry sky, no enough rain to flood them. And Maasai assumed they must go drown to death and made their way carelessly, expecting to step on the dead bodies, stole everything home with, and sorry for them, no Maasai back. They're all caught, get rid of them off. The caves are made from the riverbank, remember. The link of the cave from the riverbank into the interior part was made lower enough to work as a drainer. After Maasai started to flood the chagas, they thought the cave was broken somewhere or leaking, so they inspect the cave was not broken or leaking. They find out the water was sent from outside. And when they check outside, the guys were serious, flooding them to death. So the chaga fighters went back to the cave system, off to the riverbank, and worked hard from the riverbank and turn it lower enough to connect the flood to the river, off to the ocean. It's underground operated. The enemies could not detect. Very sorry for them, Kelly. In and never. Different generations came up with different techniques. They came up with the chemical warfare eventually. Biological local-made weapon from tobacco, I'm sure you know that. Nicotiana rustica, that plant. Tobacco for cigarette making. Bushy ones. They grow them until they are matured chemically, they stock them. And the hot pepper, subtype of chili, pili
mango.
but the subtype, almost like that, but kicha. Call it pili pori or whatever, which is hot like poison almost. Maasai stock them for 20 years, stocking them with the tobacco. Grow them when it's raining, when they are chemically matured and the pili is ripened, they harvest and stock them. Body days to die from no food, go hunt the chagas, and the chaga run in the caves. And Maasai fill up the accessing point of the caves, pili kicha, tobacco, and fire. And they wave in the smoke them out. Few hours they will all get irritated, they will all run out, and technically you pick them like mandazi for interrogation techniques. You get all the useful information from them, smash them to death, you get to the goal with information from them. If they don't show out after a few hours of irritating them, it's recommended to finish them anyway, because if you go, they might be around the corner waiting for you, or something is terrible they can't escape, you will never show back too. So to finish them anyway means many hours of smoke until you are sure they are all suffocated to death and step in. This Chaga Maasai conflict was not many hours. We were told 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks, until no chili, no tobacco, and no Chaga comes out. And Maasai assume they have to be all suffocated to death, carelessly in the darkness, and sorry for them again. Anyone who step in, they never saw them, dead or alive, or a piece of their bone to tell the stories. Here is the little thing from the, our friends were killed in the cave and so on. All of them, midnight, they were washed off in pieces to the ocean. Up here, 17th century plus or minus, if this could be a question, how they survived the chemical attack. They used to sleep on cow skin here, like mats. When they get invading the house, they escape with everything useful daily into the caves. Cows, maize, sleeping mats and things in. They use them down in the caves. When the guys came to smoke them out, they used cow skin to close the corridor. No smoke in. And the smoke is sent in with lots of pressure. It won't stay where there is blockage unless the pressure is released. It's very simple physics. It will turn where there is free room outside to release the pressure. And when they do the smoke thing, it's very smoky. They don't see they are doing a big job. They blow the smoke very much deep in, but it's deflecting back from the cow skin blockage out. So they did the stupid thing for 3 weeks. Lots of materials and things, burned them in and out. Eventually, assume they are all dead, and very sorry for them. In carelessly, never back. One of them. In pieces, get rid of them. In 60s, they stopped this, although some of the killing tricks and survival continued, but time-wise. In 60s, they became a nation, speaking Swahili from 120 tribes. You know the story of Tanganyika? Maybe better than I think. In 1964, Zanzibar came back. 1961, Tanganyika, from British colonial control. 1964, Zanzibar came back. If you remember, 30,000 years plus. People walked from Serengeti, Kilimanjaro to Zanzibar, from Zanzibar to here. Buffaloes and giraffes. It's only within 30,000 years it started a small stream between Dar and Zanzibar, which eroded and keep Zanzibar that far deep in the ocean. End up mistaken by Asians. They thought it was part of Asian continent, some of Asians. So Zanzibar was part of Oman Sultanate to 1964. And Zanzibar broke from Oman Sultanate by revolution 1964 and joined with the Tanganyika, where it used to be back in dates originally 30,000 years plus. And the Tanzania came along, Swahili speaking took over, modern government, Nyerere and so on. We forgot all that kind of crazy lifestyle they did back there. Caves also were forgotten from 60s. 1989, UNESCO. Doing okay, boys? Karibu. And the little girl, you okay? Karibu. Yeah. 1989, UNESCO came to declare Mount Kili a heritage for the world sites. It's when archaeologists and some other common tourists like you came along. Along them, there was a very old guy, a retired professor from UNESCO. He's the one who came to advise us to clean the caves and make them accessible. Many people around the world, they know Kili, but it's just up there, rocks, flora and fauna of the mountain, but they know zero about people of Kilimanjaro. So the cave should serve as a piece of artifacts to give a clue to the world and so on. And at least if you guys, or any one of your type, find genuine men who doesn't care what it takes to get their customers to genuine spots, they will always find us. It will turn, if not touch your life back home, start to live nice, thankful life to your nature, who you are, what you have back home, and so forth. Just benefiting from learning from the past and never try to start living there, of which will break everything off. So the cave is back here on track for that purpose. If it doesn't bother you, I'll be happy to make my small general speaking of the cave shorter, cutting here, stage 1, to accomplish it.
Kwa hiyo alikuwa anakaa humu na magongo hayo, anakutupia la kichwa moja tu, shughuli yako imeisha. Amna ili
is the ambushing chamber.
Okay.
They stay 3 warriors who are wachagas.
Okay.
For 6 hours, for them to be easy to defeat against the enemies who come in.
Okay.
And normally Maasai, they was come in to attack the chagas for 2 groups. A big group and a small group. If it is a big group, the chagas, they killing them by using the skull breaker weapon. Yeah. After killing them, they push them to the mortuary room. So when it reached the midnight, they cut in the body in pieces and they threw them to the river. And so for the small group, they didn't killing them. They interrogated them by using the kiliniko, knocking tool for interrogation. So that weapon is not for killing. They use for making the body weak, powerless. After that, they make as a slaves. They give some works to do, especially to clean the areas of animals. Remove dust and the dung outside to the areas of animals. Because before the chargers, they normally share the toilet to animals, so that the small group no killing.
Okay.
Second room, open area.
Yeah.
Is what they cook in the food and natural medicine by using the clay pot. And the animal place also there. Here is the place of the one families. So in totally 62 families, they used to hide in here of this planet. For each family, there is a 4 or 7 children. So it depends upon the parents. So they sit in here in order to discuss how are they avoiding the conflict. They use the stones like a chair to sit. There's not a chair like this. Mother and the kids, they sleep here down. Yeah, by using the skin of cows like a mattress. Further, the adults, they sit in surrounding of them, and they pray all the time, like a way of protecting them with the enemies who are coming in. And for each room, they make a ventilation hole for air. You see here? You can stand.
Tell us what you see.
Wow.
Ah,
This one's a big
small.
giant.
The vent, the chagas, they planted the poisonous plants, decoy plants around the vent outside, to avoid the snakes and insects to come in. So when Maasai saw those plants outside the vent, so they cut in all plants because it was like a special bush. So they cut in and they can get a small hole outside the vent. So they take a long stick and they keep it in to know what is in here. So they didn't get an answer from the stick, they can use another one. So they take some stones small in the size, like an apple or an orange, and they throw into the vent here. Yeah, so the families are they sitting surrounding here. They run fast for the first room for the ambushing, to call in the warriors to come here to see what is going on. So the warriors, they can take a big pot, like 50 liters, and they fill with water, and they hang it over here to the vent. So when the Maasai continues through the stones, they hear the sound of water. So they thought here's a river, or maybe there's a crocodile live here. Yeah, so they give up when they run away. Yeah.
That's good. Really good.
And when they sit in here, is notify the areas of animals of that side for the open area. So you know sometimes the cows, they are good in making a noise. So you can't tell them, stop making a noise, okay, quiet. They have a way of making the cows silent. The warriors used to send a man at the mountain to bring some volcanic ash containing sulfur and salt, and then they mix with the food of cows. So when the cows eat on the food, they need to drink a lot of water. So they can drink even 6 or 7 buckets of water, and they can sleep all the time. Because their stomach is becoming big and heavy, so they cannot continuously starving. In next, there are the stupid cows. They never kept in guard. Yeah, so the chagas, they chopping and they making another delicious food for them. That is all about it.
Where did they get the cows?
How?
Where did they get the cows?
With the warriors.
Okay, thank you.